Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WWE News and Rumors. I'm your host, Mr. Brandon Hodge. This video is brought to you by SeatGeek. If you guys are looking for tickets for any event in the entire world, just use my last name, code Hodge, and save yourselves $20 freaking. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go ahead and jump into this episode with the first news story. So the first news story is about Bray Wyatt. So just in case you haven't heard, I did a breaking news episode yesterday about it. But ladies and gentlemen, if I'm just not breaking you this news in this, I hate to do it, but ladies and gentlemen, Bray Wyatt has been released from the WWE. He has been fired. I talked about this in yesterday's video, again, my thoughts. It's a whole day later, and I'm still in freaking shock about it. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, will not be returning in the WWE. He has been released, he's been fired. He can go to another wrestling company, but obviously he can't use the Fiend gimmick or even the Bray Wyatt gimmick. Which really sucks. I mean, they can always rehire the guy like they've rehired other people before, but it's just a mess of a situation. It's really horrible, and we have some rumors about that we'll get into the rumor part of this video. But yeah, if you don't know, I'm just mentioning it here. I talked about it a lot in yesterday's video, but yeah, Bray Wyatt has been released by the WWE. Alright, so the next news story before we jump into some juicy rumors is about Vince McMahon himself. So Vince McMahon had to do the, it's called the investors call or whatever for the second quarter of 2021. Basically, he explains everything, explains people they've released or whatever, explains why they released people, explain, why they spent money here, why they're starting something new, or why they're doing this, why they're changing that. He basically just explains everything, because the investors own more of WWE than Vince does at this point, which is kind of crazy to think about. But anyway, one question the investors asked is, Vince, what is your... They can ask anything, there's no limits, they can ask Vince anything. They asked Vince, hey Vince, what is your opinion on AEW? What do you think? Are they a big competition? Is this something to worry about? Is there a potential for them to even take over the WWE at some point and pass us in viewers or whatever? And Vince basically said, they're not on the same level. This isn't like a WWE versus WCW. They're not on the same level that WCW once was. They are not even close. WWE's up here, AEW's way down here. He's not even looking at them. So that's basically what Vince had to say about that. He's not looking at AEW, does not see them as competition, is not worried about anything. Not worried, just not worried. That's just the theme of Vince McMahon recently. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so that's actually the only two confirmed news stories I've talked to you guys about in this episode. And now, don't you go anywhere, because things are about to get good. Things are about to get juicy. I'm going to suggest for you guys, go and get your juice boxes out, get your juice boxes ready, because ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to talk about some juicy rumors. Alright, the first one, we'll go back to the Bray Wyatt thing, the Fiend thing. So he's been released by the WWE, but why? Why is he released? Well, apparently the reason backstage given for this release is budget cuts, just like the releases of everything. There were some rumors circulating or some people talking that maybe Bray requested this release because he's just not in the right mental space and he's not ready to return and he doesn't think he's going to be ready to return in the future. And he's still in a WWE contract, so maybe requested the release and they're like, okay, Bray. But apparently it's not that situation. We may hear something different later on, but as of right now, it's saying it is budget cuts. And to make things even worse, the way the guy was released, he wasn't called up on the phone by Vince McMahon, he wasn't called up by powers that be, or even one of the head of talent relations people. He was actually sent a text. He was sent a freaking text message saying, Bray, you're fired. What? Okay, I really hope there's a lot of details missing here. Give, powers that be WWE a benefit of the doubt. Maybe we're missing a crucial piece of something here. But apparently Bray Wyatt was released, he was fired because of budget cuts, and he was given the news via text message. So that's what we know right now. Hopefully there's a big chunk of information missing that we'll know sometime in the near future. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the next rumor is about the Beast incarnate, Mr. Brock Lesnar. So there's this rumor going around last week that Brock Lesnar signed with another wrestling company, or maybe signed with some other company to do something else, and he wasn't going to re-sign with WWE or whatever. Yeah, that's not true. That's what this rumor is saying. That's not true. Brock Lesnar is still a WWE guy, still scheduled to be in the WWE. He does not have an active contract with WWE or any wrestling organization or even any MMA or any company at all. So the guy will return when he is ready, but he currently has no contract with any company. He is not signed with another company. He is not signed with WWE. He's a complete free agent in the wrestling, MMA, UFC field, whatever you want to call it. All right, let's jump into the next rumor. The next rumor is about a WWE backstage kind of thing. So there's been this rumor about AEW for a while that, well, not really a while. It's been going on maybe a few weeks now. CM Punk. CM Punk's coming to AEW. CM Punk and Tony Khan met face-to-face. CM Punk signed on the dotted line. He is now an AEW wrestler with a full-time contract. and he will be set to debut sometime in the future. We just don't know when. Same thing with Daniel Bryan. Apparently Daniel Bryan is also signed to AEW, and he will debut sometime in the future. So those are two very, 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 very large signees. But the question is, what does WWE think about this? Is WWE like scared, like out of their mind backstage, not knowing what they're going to do because two of the biggest stars in wrestling history are now going to their rival company? Apparently WWE and Vince, this is the theme here, they're not worried. They're not worried at all. Apparently the idea with CM Punk is CM Punk's name isn't worth a lot anymore because he went to UFC and he lost in UFC. So he's not worth a lot, so his name value's dropped a lot. It's like, no, that's not the way that works. CM Punk's a wrestler. He tried something new that he had no experience in, and he failed, but at least he tried it, and that does not affect his name in professional wrestling at all, at least in my humble opinion. But anyway, the one that they are kind of worried about is Daniel Bryan going to AEW. So they're a little worried about that, but they're not like scared out of their mind or anything like that. But if I was powers of be, these two big stars, it's just crazy. I don't know whose name would be elevated more in my mind. I guess CM Punk, because you always have that like. I don't know, there's been rumors about a guy returning to wrestling, people chanting his name in arenas years later since he's ever even been in a wrestling ring, and it's just crazy to think about. I think CM Punk is always going to have that big draw value, especially, if he's the CM Punk, he can be that CM Punk, we all know and love inside of the ring, and he can still be that guy even though he hasn't wrestled in a while, maybe he can get back in ring shape or whatever. But we'll just have to wait and see where this goes. But apparently backstage at WWE, they're not really that worried. They're more worried about Daniel Bryan showing up in AEW than CM Punk, apparently, for some freaking reason. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is the saddest part of this video, so go get your tissues out, get your tissues ready, because this is the final news story, the final rumor, the final thing I'll be talking about inside of this episode of WWE News and Rumors. So there is this worry going around right now that it looks like the virus may be coming back, maybe in new forms or whatever like that. I try not to keep up with the news too much, because I don't like to get all paranoid. I mean, pretty much the whole, I don't know how it is in other countries. Here in the United States, at least in my part of the United States, people get very, very paranoid over this and they like freak the hell out. And I'm like, in my opinion, what happens, happens. And there's nothing I can do to change that. Me being paranoid and freaking out isn't going to change anything. Basically, there's a concern that the virus is getting worse again and maybe we might have a shutdown again. And this affects WWE because they can't do, live shows with crowds. So apparently WWE is also, they're looking towards the future because they don't want to be surprised like they were for WrestleMania, 36 or whatever. And basically WWE right now are looking at like 6 different locations they can bounce back and forth from in case there is like a shutdown and they can't have live fans. So they're looking at different locations they can bounce back and forth from and do shows. Maybe they can have actual fans there, just not 100% capacity like they've been doing. There's a big concern. I know different parts of the United States are at different levels or whatever. And then there's also been talk about WWE going back overseas. So, I mean, in my mind, I thought everything was good, back to normal, because we're back to 100% capacity, sold out arenas. I'm traveling again. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling amazing. And then you hear this. So hopefully it doesn't go to that level. I think WWE are just kind of being extra prepared in this case, and I'm pretty sure it's highly unlikely it's going to happen. But just in case it does, they are prepared to go back to, hopefully not a Thunderdome situation, but they're looking from bouncing back and forth between 6 different locations. I don't know if this is all like in one state, or if it's like spread out, like maybe they have a location in like Florida, maybe one in like, I don't know, Tennessee, maybe one in New York, maybe one out in California. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of information about it right now, but I don't think it's actually getting to that point, but they're just being prepared just in case. So there you guys said, that's actually going to do it for this episode of WWE News and Rumors. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Right now on screen, I'm going to leave a link to 2 previous videos for you guys to check out, as well as a button to subscribe to the channel if you're brand new here. But I am Brandon Hodge, and I will see you guys in the next video.